The importance of light or Jyoti, both in our internal and external world, is best expounded in the Sanskrit verse Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, lead me from darkness to light. Among our 5 sense organs, the eyes are the window to the external world. Hence, it has verily been said, Sarvendriyanam Nayanam Pradhanam. Let us now try to understand the structure and function about the retina of the eye. The human eye has many of the features of a camera, starting with a cornea which bends light rays and lens which focuses light onto the retina. The visual image formed on the retina is both inverted top to bottom and reversed right to left. The retina is a light-sensitive layer that absorbs light and transmits images to the brain and has 10 layers, each having a very specialized function. Macula is the central part of the retina which is responsible for sharp, detailed central vision and high spatial acuity. Photoreceptors are the cells in the retina that respond to light, the density and distribution of which varies with the topographic location. The central fovea is populated exclusively by cones, a bundle of nerve fibers which carry visual impulses from the macula follow a straight course to the optic nerve head, also called the optic disc. The optic nerve carries visual information from the retina to the vision centers of the brain via electrical impulses. The part of the world that you see without moving your head is called the visual field. Information from the left visual hemifield is carried in the right optic tract, and information from the right visual hemifield is carried in the left optic tract. The inverted retinal image is converted to an erect image at the level of the visual cortex. During a comprehensive dilated eye examination, the patient receives special eye drops that dilate the pupil, which is the diaphragm controlling light entering the eye. The pupils open wide, allowing the doctor to see the back of the eye, including the retina, macula, and the optic nerve, and diagnose sight-threatening eye diseases. The binocular indirect ophthalmoscope provides a brightly illuminating and wide-angle view of the retina and vitreous. This instrument is very critical in diagnosing retinal diseases.
Indirect ophthalmoscope is the instrument that is used in the examining the eye. It consists of a head-mounted light source and a condensing lens. Here the light is projected into the dilated pupil through the condensing lens. Here the image is a virtual image which falls between the condensing lens and the doctor's eye. The image is inverted.
The slit lamp biomicroscope provides a high magnification with a slit illumination to study the different layers of the eye in detail.
Slit lamp biomicroscope is the instrument that is used in the examination of the eye. It consists of a light source and a binocular microscope. It gives a stereoscopic magnified inverted image. Retina is examined with the help of a handheld 90 diopter lens.
The optical coherence tomography, or OCT, is a non-invasive, non-contact imaging modality that produces cross-sectional images of the retina with micrometer resolution. Optical coherence tomography is based on imaging reflected light. Using light instead of sound, the enhanced resolution is much greater. Optical coherence tomography scanners produce a two-dimensional cross-sectional retinal image that resembles a histological section. This is 10 times better than an ultrasound.
Optical coherence tomography provides a better understanding of the pathophysiology, monitoring the progression and treatment response in various chorioretinal disorders. To name a few conditions in which it is extensively used are macular holes, vitreomacular traction, epiretinal membranes, diabetic macular edema, age-related macular degeneration, central serous retinopathy, and macular edema due to various other causes.
A fundus camera has a high resolution and a charge couple device sensor with appropriately high megapixels. This gives JPEG retinal images which are very sharp and are of high magnification.
Fundus photography provides a color image of the retina. It is most often used for disease documentation and for clinical studies with potential use for telemedicine and patient education. It is a simple and a quick method of acquiring the images. The images can be saved and can be used at a later date.
A fundus fluorescent angiography is a test that studies circulation of the retina. The fluorescent sodium dye is injected into a peripheral vein and enters the retinal circulation. Depending on the rate of injection and the health of the cardiovascular system, the time taken is 10 to 15 seconds. Sodium fluorescent is an orange-red crystalline hydrocarbon which diffuses through most of the body fluids. Fundus fluorescent angiogram. This test helps us in the detailed evaluation of the retina and its circulation and is very useful in assessing certain common problems like diabetic retinopathy, age-related macular degeneration and retinal vein occlusion. The indocyanine green angiography is a test to study the choroid which is deeper to the retina. Indocyanine green is the water-soluble dye. The intravascular retention of indocyanine green coupled with low permeability makes this angiography ideal for imaging choroidal vessels. Indocyanine green can be detected only with specialized infrared video angiography. This procedure is very useful to diagnose choroidal diseases. ICG angiography is usually done as a complement to fundus fluorescent angiography. In this test, indocyanine green dye is injected to distinctly delineate the choroidal vessels, which is not usually seen in fundus fluorescent angiography. So at present, this is an invaluable tool to diagnose conditions like age-related macular degeneration and its variants called polypoidal choroidal vasculopathy. The B-scan ultrasound is used to scan the internal structure of the eye. In B-scan, B stands for brightness, meaning brightness mode. The ultrasound waves have frequencies greater than 20 kHz, which is inaudible to humans.
This B-scan ultrasound is done with the specialized probe which is of 10 MHz. This is especially useful only in ophthalmology. This cannot be used for any other purpose. This, as compared to general ultrasound, which is of 2 MHz, this gives a very fine resolution of the images in the eye. What we try to image is structures at the posterior segment of the eye, which involves the retina, the vitreous, and the structures behind the eyeball called the orbit. This is useful in hazy media whenever there is opacification of the cornea, or there is dense cataract, or there is hemorrhage in the vitreous. This enables us to see the structures clearly in presence of these problems and may come to a diagnosis. So this is a test which investigates the structural integrity of the eyeball and does not tell much on the function. But this is an excellent tool, a simple, repeatable, outpatient procedure that can be carried out on patients.
Laser is an acronym for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Laser is an important therapy in retinal diseases. The term photocoagulation refers to the selective absorption of light energy and conversion of that energy to heat, with a subsequent thermally induced structural change in the target tissues. These processes and their therapeutic results depends on laser wavelength and laser pulse duration.
This is green laser machine. We use laser treatment for retinal diseases in mainly 4 situations. Number 1, to make abnormal new blood vessels shrink so that they don't bleed and cause vision problem. Number 2, to reduce macular edema so that the vision stabilizes or improves. Number 3, to seal retinal tears or retinal holes so that they don't lead to retinal detachment. And number 4, to seal leaking spots.
Age-related macular degeneration, otherwise commonly called as AMD, results from a damage to the posterior layers of the retina, which involves the retinal pigment epithelium and the photoreceptor cells. This could either result in loss of tissue, which we call as dry AMD, or produces new blood vessels which grow into the retina, which we call as wet AMD. The symptoms of AMD are metamorphopsia or distortion in vision, or scotoma, or loss of small areas of visual field. Metamorphopsia, which is basically distortion in vision, is when there is thickening of the retina. This results in all images looking either enlarged or magnified or very severely distorted. Scotoma, it occurs when there is loss of tissue. So the image, when you see a person, you actually see a part of the image missing. So if you see a person, his face could go missing, which we call as scotoma. Or occasionally there is severe loss producing total loss of vision. Management of AMD is very tedious and difficult because it is a chronic process. This would require repeated injections of intravitreal antivascular endothelial growth factor. This results in prolonged treatment line, which we need to continue to preserve vision that the patient has or improve vision in number of patients. Diabetes is a metabolic disorder which results from an increase in blood glucose levels. Blood glucose levels, when it gets increased, it affects the small blood vessels, which we call as microangiopathy. This predominantly affects the retinal capillaries, resulting in diabetic retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy is classified into non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy and proliferative diabetic retinopathy. We treat predominantly the proliferative diabetic retinopathy by either laser in the initial stages, or when it is more advanced, it would require surgery in the form of vitrectomy. Diabetes results in microangiopathy. Microangiopathy produces leakage of fluid from the fine capillaries in the retina, which it involves predominantly the macula. This is called diabetic macular edema. Now, because there is increase in fluid collection, there is decrease in vision. We treat this if it is mild with laser. If it is more severe, we give injections in the vitreous by drugs which are called antivascular endothelial growth factor or steroids. This results in reduction of fluid that is got accumulated, producing an increase in vision and reduction of this edema. Complications of diabetic retinopathy are vitreous hemorrhage or tractional retinal detachment. Vitreous hemorrhage results from these new vessels which occur in proliferative diabetic retinopathy. They bleed into the jelly called vitreous, and this is called vitreous hemorrhage. Occasionally, this produces shrinkage and pull on the retina, which we call as tractional retinal detachment. Vitreous hemorrhage and tractional retinal detachment are operated by a procedure called vitrectomy.
Retinal vein occlusion is a condition in which blood circulation in the retinal vein is blocked. This is the second most common retinal vascular disease after diabetic retinopathy. Retinal vein occlusion is usually seen in people above 50 years of age. Uncontrolled high blood pressure and diabetes and high cholesterol are some of the causative factors. In younger people, we may have to look for abnormal clotting mechanisms of the blood due to some inflammatory diseases. There are two main types of retinal vein occlusion. One in which a branch of the retinal vein is involved. This is called branch retinal vein occlusion. And if the main vein, the central vein, is blocked, then this is called central retinal vein occlusion. Vision gets decreased in retinal vein occlusion due to swelling of the retina called macular edema. We need to first measure this thing using optical coherence tomography or OCT. Then we need to give injections to the eye to reduce the swelling. These injections may need to be given 5 to 6 times over 1 to 2 years. And most common injections used are anti-vascular endothelial growth factor drug or steroid drug. Both branch and central vein occlusions can cause abnormal new blood vessels. These may rupture and leak blood into the eye, and this causes haziness of vision. If this happens, we give laser treatment to make the abnormal blood vessels shrink, and this reduces the chances of blood leaking into the eye again. Central serous chorioretinopathy or CSCR is a condition in which there is collection of water under the retina in a person. So the person sees the vision as if he is looking through a film of water. We still don't know what is the exact cause of central serous chorioretinopathy. It is seen mostly in people from 20 to 50 years of age, and it is widely believed that stress plays a very important part in causing central serous chorioretinopathy. Most people do not need any treatment because it heals by itself within 1 to 2 months. If this does not happen, then we do a test called fluorescein angiography and find out from where this water is leaking and try to seal it using laser treatment. We also advise to avoid stress or counter stress, as it is an important factor to trigger recurrence of the same disease in many people.
With advancement in the sphere of ophthalmology, early diagnosis and prompt treatment of retinal diseases is possible, which will go a long way in preventing blindness. Awareness of the symptoms and regular follow-up are both very crucial.